How we doing, traders and investors? Welcome to another stock market movers. Let's go ahead. Let's dive on into today's topics. We're going to talk to you about what is going on in China and Taiwan. Did they react? What did they do this morning? We'll talk a little bit about that. Then we'll get into, of course, Fed talk out there. There's a lot going on. We got some Bullard talk. We got some Daily. We got some Barkin. So let's go ahead. Let's get into that. OPEC plus news, and then we'll also talk about crude outputs and the surprise of the stockpile that's out there right now. We'll take a look at the issues in oil. We'll talk a little bit about layoff concerns hitting high gear with Robinhood. Then we'll get into what was hot and what was not. Of course, we'll take a look at the biggest stock market gainers on the day. We'll also dive into the earnings. We got a lot to talk about. We got AMD, Starbucks, Solar Edge, Gilead, EA, PayPal, SoFi, Occidental Petroleum, Airbnb, Under Armour, CVS getting a huge lift today, Moderna also. And then we'll touch a little bit on some news from Ford. We got special guest today, Ben Silverman. I told you guys I would have him back. You know, we struggled a little bit yesterday. We're not going to struggle today, and we will be having him on, and that's going to be at 1:15. So stick around for that. Let's dive into today's show. We got a lot to talk about right here on Stock Market Movers with none other than, of course, Money Mitch. Let's dive on in.
It's time for Money Making Mitch. When investors need a story, we're going to the moon. Welcome to Money Mitch, where story is everything. I'm here to find you the next opportunity. It's all about the green hands. Now, we all know the bull market is here to stay. Money Mitch.
Well, it's looking like I'm not going to have to change that intro. I know that a lot of people wanted to continue to remind me that is the bull market here to stay? It's looking like it today. Let's take a look at the SPY just ripping through the roof there, guys. Now up there towards 414.68. This is going to be very important because it's looking like we're getting through these highs that we've had for the last 3 days. Something that definitely I'll keep watch is last time we did this, we dropped big the following day. So just pointing out this kind of candle here that did a very similar pattern that we're having here at the top of resistance. We'll see if that turns around. Of course, there's nothing to say that it's going to right now, but something that we need to all keep watch. And definitely a close above 412s. You can see it here, 413.41, 413.03s. 413.22. So if we can clear that 412s, get into the 413s today and close up there, it's going to be looking interesting for the overall market. Now let's talk a little bit about what happened this morning. So this morning, of course, China just not doing too much on, of course, the Nancy Pelosi visit, but they did curb some tension. They did some trading curbs. So they took away some fruit imports, some fish, sand exports being banned. And I think that this is something that is just going to develop over time. So just keep your eyes on the news that comes out of China. We'll see if this continues to show up in the headlines or does it just go away. Hopefully it does. Hopefully we don't hear anything else. But of course, everybody needs to keep watch. Now let's get into the Fed talk. Of course, we need to keep an eye out for the Fed right now. We did get Bullard this morning. He was talking on Squawk Box interview. He was talking about how the economy can still avoid recession. And even though he thinks the central bank will need to keep hiking rates to control inflation, he said that we're going to have to see convincing evidence across the board, headline and other measures of core inflation all coming down convincingly before we are able to feel like we're doing our job. So this is something definitely to keep in mind. Will the Fed continue to raise the rates is something that everybody's watching. Will they take a pause in the midterms? Will they take a pause here in the fall? And will they get kind of off this restrictive policy going into next year? Yesterday's comments from San Francisco Fed President Mary Daly stated that the central bank was nowhere near done with its fight to cool inflation. We also got comments today on here that she said, and this was stated, that 50 basis points would be the reasonable thing to do in September. So at least now you'll probably be hearing more and more mentions of a 50 basis point hike rate in September. Richmond's Fed President Tom Barkin also spoke here and said that the recession fears are a little inconsistent with monthly jobs growth of nearly 400,000 and a 3.6% unemployment rate. Something to keep on watch how this Fed talk develops. And as you guys can see today, it really didn't shake up the market at all. The market continued on a nice 15-minute trend towards the upside. We'll see if we can close up here. Like always, there's been some swings going into the close. And it's going to be an interesting day if we can get just above that 14 level. You can see here, there's kind of this area here where I'm looking to see if we fall into that area. And the close above, let's say towards 415. Yeah, and the gates start opening up, at least on the daily, towards the 420. We'll see what happens there on the overall market. All right, catching up with the chat. I know that a lot of times I miss you guys, so it's good to see you guys there. I see Martine. I see Zoten in the chat. I see Beach Bum, Easy. It's good to have you guys here. If you're new to the show, say hello in the chat, and I'll definitely catch what stock was on your mind. Now, we got a lot to talk about today. We are going to go through one interview today. We got a lot of earnings stocks to go, but let's keep going. Let's take the next topic here, which is getting out of the Fed talk and going more into oil and what really can the U.S. do to kind of deal with the supply issues in oil. But, I mean, we got some good news today. Let's start with kind of the news that was actually bringing oil on up. And I'll show you it by let's just take an overall outlook at XOM. You could see this spike here in the pre-market, right? Well, this came when OPEC Plus put out the news that they would be boosting by 100,000 barrels a day, but just a drop in the bucket of what really is needed here. Now, right after that, at 10 a.m., we had our crude kind of inventories hit, and the crude stockpile built a surprise 4.5 million barrels last week. And this, of course, could have been all based off of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. But gasoline stockpiles grew by 160,000 barrels, while analysts expected a decline here. And consumers used just 8.5 million barrels a day of gasoline compared to 9.4 million in the period last year. Of course, inflation wasn't so rampant, so that year-over-year outlook is kind of a little bit of something that I really wouldn't put too much into it. But it's interesting to watch that we had that pop and then the quick drop, right? So now we can kind of watch to see what happens if XOM or some other oil plays. Do we come back from this, or do we just give up kind of the gains that we've been making the last, I would say, 15 days, 2 weeks? It was up about 18%. Now you're pulling on back. We'll see if it gets to around 9%. So we're talking probably down here closer towards the 88. We'll see if we can catch the bounce there in XOM. And some of these other oil plays, of course, there's going to be a lot of watch to see what happens with the situation. Of course, with Russia, how does this keep developing? Do we just continue to see oil demand destruction? All right, let's keep going. Let's get into the next topic. Next topic is going to be about layoff concerns hitting high gear. Robinhood to cut 23% of its staff. This was a headline that hit the tape yesterday. And look how Robinhood reacted today. It said, you know what? It don't matter about layoffs. They did come after, of course, the reduction of 9% of the workforce earlier in the year, which Vlad said did not go far enough. Of course, the CEO telling us that they should have gone a little bit higher on the layoffs. But this is something that I'm definitely going to keep on watch, because if they're going to continue to cut, I think what we're all looking towards is are we in a recession, right? A lot of people wanted to point that we aren't in a recession because of the labor market. But if we keep seeing headlines like this, are we going to see a massive turnaround in the labor market is what I'm pointing to. And you're hearing comments consistently coming from the Fed that they're looking to see that unemployment rate start rising. The question is, will it really just kind of blow it through the water and all of a sudden get out of control? Next thing you know, boom, now we really have that conversation of recession on. We'll see what happens. All right, getting out of the Robinhood layoffs, and of course, we'll keep watch to see what else comes into there. There's been so many companies that have laid off, but this move right here is more of a reminder that this market right now, I would say, is not trading logically. Even if you get the right headlines that look like a negative headline, you're seeing some stocks go up, and stocks that sometimes get positive headlines are coming down. So it's a little bit hard to trade right now. Just want to go ahead and state that. Just be careful out there, guys. Let's go into what was hot and what was not. In a few moments, we'll be getting into our interview. Let's see if we can get through this now. What was hot and what was not today? Well, technology, consumer cyclical, and healthcare were the leading sectors on the day. What was doing well in technology? Let's take a look. Looks like it was software and applications, the names that have been beaten down the most in my eyes here. Definitely getting some bounce back. A stock like Team getting some bounce back today. Snow has been really strong lately after coming on down here a little bit. Now right back up there to the 163s. And you're seeing a lot of stocks that were hit hard, like Shop. It went down all the way back towards that 31. Now it's all the way back towards 40. So we need to keep these ones on watch. They're definitely getting some lift. Datadog, I know that it kind of has that report later in the day here. Let me see. DD Dog. We actually report here tomorrow before the bell. So keep this one on your radar. We'll see how it's doing, but it's already run into the earnings. We'll see how it performs. But definitely software application names, the beaten down stocks, the stocks probably with those higher PEs that have been hit hard, finding some bounce. A pure example of that, I mean, you can look probably like Asana and look how that's coming on back right now. ARKK is, of course, my indicator to kind of keep on watch of this. I talked about this level multiple times that we couldn't get through the 44s. And right on Tuesday, we were going to watch to see if we cracked that. If we didn't, it looked like it wanted to come back to resistance. And wouldn't you know it? Boom. Now you're all the way back up there towards 49.96. And Kathy's probably ringing the bell and singing in the streets as it looks like the growth stocks are back, baby. ARKK having a really good day up there, a significant amount, 6%. And a lot of these names taking some big moves. Coin up 20%, Hood up 12%, NTLA up 12%, Square getting that nice little push. So definitely some of these stocks getting some lift today. What was not strong today was energy, basic materials, and utilities. So you can see energy definitely getting hit on that oil news. A lot of that coming when the crude stockpiles hit the tape. That's when you started seeing a real decline here. That was right at 10 a.m. And you can see here on the tape how it hit and boom, started dragging the sector down. Basic materials down also 0.88 from the open. What is down big? Silver. Why is silver down big? Well, I don't even need to look, but I'm more than likely positive that the dollar is up and it's affecting silver on the downside there. Same thing for gold here coming down, and copper just continues to come on down here. Utilities turning around a little bit, but look, finding a little bit of bounce. I've been watching stocks like Duke. We were taking a leg up last week. Now we did a little bit of a pullback. These are harder stocks to kind of read sometimes. I feel like even when you get a nice move, you get maybe a 3-4 point move, and then you get some pullback. Less risk to the downside, I feel, in these utilities, but it's just tough to kind of trade on these because I've seen a lot of like kind of range moves, and then it breaks the range, comes right back up. All right, let's get out of energy, basic materials, and utilities, and what was hot and what was not. Let's start going into our first interview today. We're going to go ahead and play a trailer. Then we'll be diving on in here. I told you guys I would get him back. Ben Silverman, I talked about it yesterday. We're going to go ahead and dive on in right after this quick trailer. Let's go ahead. Let's dive on into our first interview today.
Introducing Portfolio Synchronization with your brokerage. Now you can securely connect your brokerage account to Benzinga Pro, opening a world of personalization. Screen lightning-fast news just for the stocks you own. Set alerts for news catalysts that affect only the companies you care about. It's all possible with a simple click and a secure, protected connection. Overcome uncertainty and connect your portfolio to Benzinga Pro today.
All right, team, let's give a warm welcome here and let's bring on Ben Silverman, Director of VerityData. How are we doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, Mitch.
Yeah, excited to dive on in. I want to stick to your specialty and you definitely pay attention to insider action, buyback. So let's go ahead, let's dive into that. How did you see insider buying and selling for the first half of the year?
So it was a really interesting first half of the year. The two themes that emerged was that in May, in the wake of Q1 earnings announcements, we had a big rush of insider buying. That's certainly a positive. Anytime we have a correction or downside volatility in the market, we're trying to get bullish signals from insiders, and we want to see them buy, as a group. So we did see that. It wasn't at historic levels, but it was pretty robust levels. The bigger news is that insiders, by and large, have stopped selling. The second quarter sales volume was one of the lowest on records in the last 20 years. And when we go back, the only periods with lower insider selling in a quarter were in Q4 of 2008 and Q1 of 2009. So if you're old like me, that's the great financial crisis. So a lack of selling is actually a very positive thing because insiders at so many companies sell regularly. It's a component of their stock-based compensation. They're going to generate liquidity on a regular basis. So when they stop doing that, that's a very bullish signal.
Interesting to go ahead and note that, one thing that we're all looking at is everyone's trying to wonder, when is the bottom coming? It is the bottom in. And one of the things that we got to keep watching is kind of what I say is watch the bigger fish, right? The bigger fish have to come in a little bit slower than all of us because, we can maybe come in one day, but they're going to have to piece into it. So keeping an eye on that is definitely important. Now, do you think that there's going to be continued appetite for the buybacks? We just saw today Moderna announce a buyback of $3 billion. We saw PayPal doing the same. We're seeing buybacks all around. Is this what we're going to expect to continue to happen?
Yeah, so we had record buyback volume actually each of the last 3 quarters. I don't think we'll get there again for Q2. So the Q2 data is just coming in right now as companies reporting earnings. And the reason being is we know that some of the financials like JP Morgan and Bank of America have said they're going to limit buybacks to increase cash reserves. So on a macro level, we probably won't see a new record either in the current quarter or the prior quarter, but we are seeing robust buyback levels at a number of companies. Alphabet had their largest buyback ever in Q2, and they were very opportunistic about it. And that's an important thing for investors. Is it's not just that companies announce, hey, we might buy back stock, or we've got a new plan. You want to key in on, are they being opportunistic and executing the buybacks at good prices? Because not all buybacks are created equal. Not all managers are good at deploying capital at the right time. So we'll see some good buyback volumes. I think dividends are really paramount right now for people. We're seeing increases in CapEx, partially due to inflation and also due to reshoring of people and supply chains. But we should see some fairly robust buyback figures for this quarter and the prior quarter.
Something to keep on watch. Now, of course, investors were really struggling with this recent downturn in the market with stock valuation, right? And now I throw the question to you. Do you feel like we're getting to a point where these stock valuations are starting to make sense?
Certainly it's a case-by-case basis. I think when we look at the market for the last several years, valuations were very high. People ignored that by and large. And, sometimes that's going to come home to roost. I think what we saw, and you had mentioned it in the previous segment, with ARKK today, is perhaps we're seeing a rotation back in, some rotation back into growth stocks. We saw techs, hit heavy. We saw rotations, throughout the second quarter. And, what it really takes is institutional dollars. It's like my clients, their hedge funds, their mutual funds, their pension funds. We need their money to go back into long equities, in order for that bottom to come. And, if companies can continue to put out some pretty solid financial results, if guidance isn't too scary, we're going to start seeing that.
Now, of course, investors sometimes struggles on how do we really kind of play insider buys, and maybe how do we kind of attach this with maybe some earnings that we should look at? What are some strategies that we should do when we start seeing some insider buys, whether that be CEOs or directors, someone high in the board? How should we approach this, Ben?
So there's a couple ways, to do it. As a retail investor, it can be difficult to the extent that, when you get into the smaller cap stocks, insider buying is greeted very warmly from the bat, so stocks will jump, very accordingly and very quickly. So there's a trading opportunity there, but you've got to be so nimble, to be able to catch it, and you can't predict what insider at what company will buy. So you can try to be nimble, you can try to be quick. That's difficult. What you really want to look for and key in on are the people who have strong histories of buying. The companies, they have to disclose, the executives and the board members insider buys and sells and so forth. And they build up histories every year. And so you want to look for people who have smart histories or doing big deviations in behavior, people who have been sellers for years. They come back and put a significant amount of money in the stock. The nice thing about insider buying is insiders don't have an opportunity to buy every single day because they have trading windows. Companies enforce trading windows. If you have material non-public information, you can't buy. So the signal you get from insider buying can be a long signal. So what I like to do is go back and screen for companies and say, hey, what were companies where you had a CEO buying within the last 3, 4, 5 months and the stock hasn't moved much? Or it's down a little bit, up a little bit. It doesn't matter. Their valuation data points that insiders are sending, their messages, so you can go back and look, and then you can, coordinate that with, are they buying back stock? If so, are they doing it at around the same level where the insiders were buying? Again, have they been smart about it? It's all about behaviors, and it's all about whether people have been smart with those behaviors in the past.
Love it. And I love how you gave us the ability of how we should kind of maybe start filtering through the data to maybe find some of the best plays that are out there. Now, just give us a little bit more insight on VerityData. What do you guys do, and how should we go ahead and kind of approach this? What should we be taking a look at?
Yeah, so we serve an institutional client base, and what we help them understand is to provide context and edge and get value out of the data points that come in through buybacks, through insider transactions, through institutional investor disclosures. Looking at the calendar, in about 2 weeks, on the 15th, hedge funds, mutual funds, all these big institutional investors are going to have to disclose what they owned at the end of the last quarter. Again, that helps us understand rotations. So what me and my team do, and what our company does, is we've created softwares and all kinds of great algorithms to extract value from all these disclosures. The buybacks, to me, are so misunderstood. There is a trading opportunity there. You get jumps when a company announces a buyback, but you want to look at the actual execution. Are they getting good prices? Are they retiring outstanding shares? If they're not, then you have to question whether that's a smart capital allocation. Again, it's the biggest. It's sort of my pet peeve at the moment, because there was a story about Apple recently. They did a big bond sale, $5.5 billion, and in their press release, they put some boilerplate language. Oh, we're going to use it for general corporate accounting, dividends, and buybacks. Well, Apple buys back $20 billion in shares a quarter, so a $5.5 billion bond sale doesn't move the needle for them. So that's like an important thing, but the stock moved on that news, partially because of the buyback element of it. So good trading opportunity there. But, again, understand the data. If they're buying back $20 billion in shares per quarter, they're paying out somewhere $15 billion in dividends a year. A $5.5 billion bond sale doesn't do anything for their coffers.
It's so important to understand, especially untouched or probably unmastered topics that aren't talked about often, like buybacks. Appreciate you coming on with that, Ben, and also we'll have you back on in a couple of weeks. I know a lot of people are going to be watching what happened. I myself am going to be looking to see if Buffett's been adding to maybe some Chevron while he's also getting Occidental. So I'll be watching to see if the rotation in oil kind of comes in. But we'll have you back on, Ben, to talk about that in a couple of weeks.
I look forward to it, Mitch. Take care.
Thank you. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our first interview. Wanted to talk about buybacks there and insider buying. It's an important topic that isn't touched often. So if you guys want to learn a little bit more about that, I definitely suggest you guys reach out to Ben and learn a little bit more about what he does. He is the director of research, so he's working hard on understanding the data there. We'll bring him back on. All right, let's take a look at the SPY. The SPY is continuing to rip. Looks like the rally is on. Rally, and it is not turning around there. We have an all-out buy the dip kind of mentality on out there. It's just been pushing. Now they're the 414.60s. I didn't expect we'd get up there so quickly, and I thought we would struggle a little bit up here around the 414s, but definitely it held the pullback really quickly there to 413.95 and pushed right back up. This is a 5-minute chart. I did see some mentions out there from certain kind of companies taking some shots. But let's go ahead. Let's get into all the earnings that we got to talk about. There's going to be a lot of these stocks. If there's any stock that catches your attention, let me know in the chat so that I can go ahead and kind of cover it a little bit more. There's a lot to talk about. All right. Night Humanity. Hey, appreciate you definitely checking that out. Let's go ahead. Let's get into it here. First one up, of course, is going to be AMD. Everybody was paying attention to it. Now I'm looking at it. It's coming back, baby. It's making up some of those losses. A lot of people were scratching their head today. And this is how this market has been. I've talked about it. This is a very scratch your head type of market. When earnings do well, sometimes the stock could come down. When earnings do bad, sometimes the stock can come up. Who knows really which way the earnings are going to affect these stocks? You don't know. That's the truth. And it's kind of one of those things where if you're trying to put too much logic to it, you're just going to end up scratching your head and being like, well, I just don't understand this market. But what I think is just look at the price action and try to react more on the actual action of the stock than worrying about what you think the bias should be based off of the earnings. So AMD having a really strong day, coming back there and making up some of this. And I felt, there you have it. Perfect example here. AMD beat here at $1.05, beating the $1.03 estimate. Sales at $6.55 billion, beating the $6.53 billion estimate. They lowered their sales guidance a small bit. The estimate was at 6.82. They put the low end to 6.5. And so if you wanted to point that, yes, you could point to that. But that's not taking it off too much because they put the high end at 6.9 billion. That would be over the estimate. So in my eyes, they put the range underneath and above it. So it doesn't really mean too much for me in this end. And you see the stock come down on that. Then what happens today? It barely took some pressure. It went down to 94, popped right off of that, started coming right back up to reclaim it. And now it's up there towards 97. Could get back towards 100 before the close. We'll see what happens on AMD. All right, next one up is going to be Starbucks. And I will mention, I kind of missed on this one. I got stopped out today, and I'm glad that I got stopped out because I got stopped out at 85.50 versus getting stopped out at 87.50, right? You got to be smart with that. So I lost about 25 cents on a swing trading position. I was playing this to the short side. I'm kind of a big bear in Starbucks, but it wasn't that bad on their earnings here. Let's talk about it. They're 84 cents, beating the 75-cent estimate. Sales at $8.15 billion, beating the $8.10 billion estimate. Starbucks now says that cold beverages, and let me know in the chat if you like the cold beverages at Starbucks. I'm personally just more of a hot coffee kind of guy at Starbucks, but if you like the cold beverages, let me know in the chat by telling me what is your favorite drink at Starbucks. So it's saying that cold beverages account for 75% of the total beverages sales in the US for Starbucks here. And you're seeing that it just took off there, guys. You guys can watch probably some other coffee makers taking off too. Bros. That's why I didn't trade it today to the upside, because I was still looking to the downside on Starbucks, but this definitely taking some lift here. And the reason I was concerned about Starbucks was because there's a lot of union mention out there and that they're going to have to pay more to keep their employees. So Of course, that's what was a big concerning sign for me here. Looks like we got over 242 people here. Do me the favor, guys, smash the thumbs on up as I keep rolling through these earning stocks, keep covering all the headlines. And if you didn't catch the interview that just hit about buybacks and insider sales, maybe you rewind a little bit and catch Sam. Let's go ahead. Let's get into the next level here at Starbucks. We're going to get out of Starbucks, maybe put the coffee to the side here. Let me see what you guys said in the chat. Oh, I see you guys talking a lot about some stocks that are catching your eyes. We're going to get through those. We'll talk a little bit about that. I'll make sure that we leave a little bit of time for some ticker time, and we'll take a look. Strawberry refresher, says Sabrina. I haven't really tried it. You got to try the blender chai tea. All right. I got to check that out, Jesse. I'm personally, I'm just more of like a caramel macchiato type of guy, but who knows? Let's get out of the Starbucks. Let's take a look at the next earnings stock. We're going to go towards a solar stock that had been doing really well. And I put the warning flag today that just be careful. This already gave us a sign that you could see solar turn around, and boom, you guys see it even get hit harder at the open here. It dropped this much right there. It was already down 14%, started coming back some of this, and then boom, gets hit another 10% on the downside at the open there. Solar technology, EPS 95 cent, missing the $1.39 estimate. Sales at 727.8 million, beating the 725.05 million estimate. But this stock had just gone too far with ENPH and a bunch of these solar names. So that's what we were calling out in live trading before the market opened, that watch out with those solar stocks because they had run a little bit too much and could pull back today, like we saw in some stocks like Run right out the gates, and a lot of these, like even SPWR, SunPower, that had a really nice day yesterday, right? Huge rip, pulled back today, and that's kind of normal. It's okay to do that. It's okay to pull back after having a big rip and then look for some continued action in the next couple of days. All right, getting out of the solar edge, let's go towards some other stocks here. Let's go to Gilead. And the reason why I'd call out Gilead is that what was up today? Well, I talked about it earlier, that it was healthcare, technology, and consumer cyclical. What was up in healthcare? Biotechs, baby. A lot on the heels of the Gilead Science report and the Moderna report. So let's talk a little bit about that. Let's give the numbers here. EPS coming in at $1.58, beating the $1.53 estimate. Sales at $6.26 billion, beating the $5.86 billion estimate. For the full year, Gilead has updated its guidance and now expects total sales between $24.5 billion and $25 billion on the high end, compared to the $23.8 billion expected. All right, let's take a look here. It having a really nice day, and also Moderna having a really nice day. Let's talk about this earnings. Going to go ahead and pull it on up. I had a little bit further down, but I feel like we need to go right to it. Let's talk a little bit about this one. Not a bad move there. $5.24, beating the $4.59 estimate. Sales at $4.7 billion, beating the $4.07 billion estimate. Moderna announcing that $3 billion buyback here. And Moderna also reiterating advanced purchase agreements for expected deliveries of 2022 of approximately $21 billion. You guys can see Moderna taking off, and this was a really nice daily setup. We've been talking about this setup for a while. You can see I created this line in July 26th. So we've been waiting since essentially this date for the breakout here. And we were looking for that nice push above the trend line. Today, you got that lift, and it continued going. Not a bad day there for Moderna, up about 15%, actually higher than 15%. I have 15.83 now. What a move there in healthcare names. All right, let's get out of these healthcare names. Let's go back into some other names here. Let's get into none other than, let's go towards, what do we got next here? Let me see. All right, let's go out of this. Let's go into SoFi. SoFi was ripping earlier, so let's get back to that. Let's take a look here. SoFi getting that nice little lift, and I talked about this one on pre-market prep. Was the lowered bar helping SoFi? And it was just sideways, hadn't really taken part in the rally, and boom, earnings hit, it rallies, and it continues to rally into the open here. EPS coming in at a loss of 12 cents, beating the loss of 13 cents. And then you guys see here sales at 356.9 million, beating the 346.48 million estimate. They raised their full year sales guidance, and this really started taking off today. We'll see if it can continue pushing. I also saw SoFi was coming on to CNBC. The big thing for me is resistance at $8. If it can hold $8, it won't be looking too bad. I have a feeling it's going to pull back right below that $8. We'll see if it can hold some pullback towards 750 and gets back up there tomorrow. All right, out of SoFi, let's keep it going here. What's the next one up? Let's go to EA. All right, EA getting that lift here. They reported their earnings here at 47 cents, beating the 28 cents estimate. Sales at 1.29 billion, beating the 1.26 billion estimate, and getting some lift. Not looking too bad. A lot of bottoming around this 130, 129. Just took off from there. We're going to look to see if it holds any pullback. But one thing to state, this one does have the 200-day moving average slightly below it. So it's in the bull zone. We'll see if it can really start moving. All right, getting out of EA there. Let's keep going to some other tickers here. Let's go to Under Armour. I think this is one that's interesting to talk about. UA, we've talked about this one yesterday, how it's just been a dog. If you take a look here at the monthlies, look how Under Armour has just gone completely down. And it hasn't changed trends, you know, and for my eyes, even though it's been bouncing here and it has bounced before, it never holds the trend back towards the upside. I'll tell you one thing, though. It definitely shows up the trend to the downside there on the monthlies here. Under Armour coming in at an adjusted EPS at 3 cents, missing the 4 cent estimate. Sales at 1.3 billion, missing the 1.35 billion estimate, and lowering its guidance there for full year 23. Adjusted EPS at 47 cents on the low end, 53 on the high end versus the 67 cent estimate. Way off there on the EPS and taking a hit. Let's take a look at the intraday. You can actually see they kind of went sideways. They tried to pop there a little bit, but not the biggest fan here of Under Armour, especially after this earnings report. Catching up with the chat. What's going on out there, guys? I know there's so many stocks that are ripping through the roof. We'll try to get to some of those big movers. I'll even pull up my Benzinga Pro to take a look at the movers tool so that we can fly through some of those movers. Let's keep going through the earnings. I'm almost done with it here, and then we'll keep going into just big movers on the day. But CVS, not a bad move there also. Let's take a look at that. You can see how it was getting on up there in the pre-market. EPS coming in here at $2.40, beating the $2.17 estimate. Sales at 80.64 billion, beating the 76.37 billion estimate there. They did raise guidance on EPS from a low end of $8.20 to a high end of $8.40. And they raised this towards a low end of $8.40, a high end of $8.60. Prior was an estimate of $8.36. So right in between that $8.20 and $8.40. Now they put the $8.40 on the downside and on the low end. So there you guys see it. CVS getting that nice little push off of that. We also saw RAD yesterday getting a nice little push. So maybe this helps out RAD to get that next lift. We'll see what happens. But CVS having a good day today. All right, what other ones we got to touch? We got Airbnb that we can get into. Let's go into that one. All right, Airbnb up there towards the 114. I've been waiting for it to get back up into that 120 area on the daily. Once we get up into there, I'm going to be looking for this to come really back roaring. But for right now, Airbnb not giving bad results here. EPS coming in at 56 cents, beating the 44 cent estimate. Sales at 2.10 billion, beating the 2.11 billion estimate. Announces 2 billion share buyback program. And there you guys see it up there through the 110, getting on up there towards the 113.95 right now. High on the day at 114.65. Let's take a look at the 15-minute. It's been pushing back after dropping fast here after the gates, after the close yesterday. Now making it all the way back. Could it get back there towards 117 today? We'll see if it can make it back after dropping off of that earnings. All right, let's take a look at one more stock here. Do we got one more? Yes, we got one more to talk about. It's not going to be an earnings play, but let's talk about Ford here, as they did hit the tape today with some news. Ford getting a lift up there towards $16 as new vehicle sales rose 36.6% in July from a year ago, and something definitely to keep on watch as Ford dives into EV, and we'll see how EV continues to perform. Of course, the Ford Lightning going to be really hitting the tapes in fall. We'll see what happens there with Ford. It definitely had a good day. GM also having a good day off of this. We'll see if these can continue making the gain and pushing back up. All right, that's going to do it for our headlines. Now I can go ahead and take some stocks that you guys have. We can go through some high movers, fast movers. What do we see out there and what can we continue to see? Before I do that, I do want to give an update on the swing trades that we talked about yesterday. DKNG was able to take some profit into the 16. It's up there to 1670s. It's really getting close towards where I want to take profit into the 17s. But we might be able to have to just take some profit off the 1680s. It's been a monster move for us. It's going to be more than a 16% gainer for me. We're going to see what happens here as What was this trade all about? This trade was all about the preseason of the NFL starting, and that's going to be tomorrow. So this could be a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of thing. So I might not want to stick around until the news hits tomorrow. But of course, the game's after the close tomorrow. So maybe we get some good catalyst to give us a little push here, and then we'll see the game come in and maybe a sell into the close tomorrow. We'll see what happens. I do also have Penn, sold some of that, but going to continue pushing. All right, so let me go ahead and bring in my Benzinga Pro, and we're going to use the movers tool here to kind of take a look at some of the biggest gainers on the session, and we can take a look at anything you guys want. I'm not going to shy away. I'm going to use Benzinga Pro to let us know what's moving out there, but let's go diving in. Here you guys see the platform. If you guys haven't used it before, just go to pro.benzinga.com. You don't even need a credit card to get your 2-week free trial. If you haven't used your 2-week free trial, the hell you waiting for? Come on over, guys. Check that on out, pro.benzinga.com. All right, let's take a look here at some of the biggest movers and see what is moving on out there. You know, I could filter out here by, let's say, like $5, but I'm just going to go ahead and give you what I see. So here you guys see MOHO moving. And what type of stock is this? So it looks like we have some American depository shares. This looks like a therapeutic stock, but I'm going to look down at the bottom. What does it tell me? Health service provider in China. And so I'm like, okay, well, we've been seeing a lot of these kind of therapeutic stocks. We've been seeing health stocks take off. Look at that lift from 20 cents up there almost to 50 cents. We'll see if this can continue to run. It's been a big runner today. All right, KSPN. This one, Caspian Holdings. Also, what is it? Digital marketplace for retailers that partners with companies to expand its brand. It grows online distribution on digital marketplaces such as Amazon, Walmart, eBay, and among others. There you guys see a nice little lift there. It's 120%. Not a bad little lift there. I'll take a look at the chart, see what we see. Looks like there's some resistance in the 7s, and it rejected to get above the 7 today. Keep your eyes on the 15-minute. We tried to get back up there and couldn't hold that 7. Let's see if it comes back up there. All right, seeing a lot being mentioned in the chat. I'll try to cover anything I can. I know that MOHO, I got you. I covered it already, so let's keep going. All right, what's another one being mentioned here and thrown up in the chat? I know that we were looking at this one on live trading. That's PSTX, getting a kind of theme here, right? Therapeutic stock, another therapeutic stock. I talked about what was leading us today. The sector was healthcare. What was the areas? It was in biotechs. A lot of those biotechs, boom, PSTX getting that nice lift, 50% move. Well, a lot of that coming into that therapeutics. DNA also showing on up here for me. I'm seeing more pharmaceutical companies. APDN here, Applied DNA Sciences, getting that lift, but coming back here from the open. So just be careful with these names. They love to go up, but they love to come down also a significant amount. So especially if something's up 50%, maybe you're looking at something that's a little bit more of a laggard and trying to catch up. All right, another monster ripper today was TUP. This was an interesting one. Was wanting to take a look at this one. And I actually got stopped out on this one today. Was looking for a little bounce back, but Tupperware just ripped through the roof. It was up about 25% at one point. It was up, I think, close to 50% on the day. It was a monster move there. So we'll see if this can keep coming back. CYH is one that we watched earlier in the day, looking to see if it was going to get going through the daily outlook here. And it did push through there. It went through that, got up there through the 350s, now up there to 355s. We'll see if it can continue making runs. Let's catch up with you guys in the chat. See GSAT being mentioned. Let's take a look. GSAT, of course, is a space satellite company that's getting some lift here. It's up there from the 140s, trying to get up there towards the 160s. One to keep on watch, but I just don't know why it's getting the move here. So I need to do a little bit more deeper dive into Global Star Inc. All right. AHT, says Becca. I'll take a look. I put in Becca. That's interesting. AHT here. Ashford Hospitality. This has been one of the hardest trades to kind of keep an eye out because this is, I'm pretty sure, a REIT. But keep this on watch. It's back up there towards 1020, getting that nice little lift. We'll see if it can get back up to 15. It has been making its way back from around 550. So it's already made almost like 100% move up. So just be careful on some pullbacks. Google wants to make the Qs move higher right now. It says risk it for the biscuit. Let's take a look. I know Google and the leadership has been doing really well here. So let's take a look. Google up there towards 119.14. If you guys remember, Google was at one point really looking like it was heading to 100 right here at the 106. Has made its way all the way back up here. And look at the trend line that you're running into. So I think the steam, it might run out here at the 120s. But we'll see what happens there in Google. It's coming on back after it tried to break down the chart here. Couldn't break down the chart, recovered it, and now is all the way back up there. Interesting chart. All right, let's take a look at some other ones. Let's take a look at the leadership. Is it continuing to run? And another thing that I wanted to watch was some of the market breadth. If you're starting to take a look, some of the SMA 200 is really starting to point towards a turnaround. But even closer is the SMA 50 number that I like to pay attention to. You guys can check that out on FinViz, just a free resource that you guys can be using. And so I pay attention to this often here, which are these first numbers at the top, because I'm looking at market breadth, right? And so one thing that I can point to is the 22.8% of stocks now starting to get above the SMA 200. But this is the number that stands out to me. The SMA 50, now 68.3% of stocks are above their 50-day simple moving average. What does that show me? That shows me right there that we are starting to get to the point where we've not only come down to certain levels, but has established a trading range here and are actually getting some consolidation that could bring that rip back up. And it's important to have some of that consolidation. When you have that consolidation, your moving averages are going to catch up to the price action, and now you're seeing it come right back up. So it's something to keep on watch to see how that keeps performing and to see if stocks can get back above that 200. Like you see Google's 200, it's way up here. We need to get it back into there to look bullish. All right, another one that we can keep watch. Let's go towards some of the bigger names here. Apple here. Apple holding that 159 pullback today, 159.45. I've talked about this level often. If we can just hold 159, we're going to be bullish on Apple, and it's looking good right now. All right, guys, I'll be right back. Going to take a quick second, a quick trailer here, quick trailer break, and then we'll just continue on. If you guys got a ticker you guys want to check on out, throw it up in the chat. I'll go ahead and cover it.
I tell all my CEOs, this is a very, very, very important platform. And look, all the other platforms are important too, but you're up there now. You're way up there.
best investments you can do in your future is actually go and re-educate yourself on credible sites and credible resources like Benzinga. I think you guys have been killing it.
The comment section on this show is remarkable. Like the quality of the combo, and just big shout out to you and your community.
So I love about you guys, you know, you just had all your callers in right then. And it's all about the community here at Benzinga.
All right, let's continue on here. If you guys got a ticker, throw it on up here. We can definitely take a look here. I wanted to take a look at oil. Were we catching finally a little bounce there? Looks like we caught a little bounce there after seeing a quick decline in some of the oil names. Just trying to catch up to see. Okay. All right, let's go ahead. Let's keep going here. Let's take a look at some other trades. If you guys got something, throw it up there. I see APH, App Harvest. Okay. I've interviewed this company multiple times, so I know a little bit about it, Jake Bear. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at the daily candle. So you can see here, have you tried to come back on up here, went back all the way to these lows, found the bounce off $3. You need to get it back above that 430. A move up here towards, let's say, 440s, 450s, closing up there would get you back above that 200-day moving average. It's a simple level to watch to see it start getting back into the bullish sense. That's what I'll be watching on APPH. All right, we got some other names in here. Palantir has been on a run for the last couple of days. I do agree with that one. That's not a bad one to watch. I've been waiting for it to get back above 12. I think you're going to run into some overhead supply around there, so just be careful if you're riding that wave. But from that level, I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Palantir again after this one was a favorite for so long and then just fell off the tape. And this is another important reason why you don't want to be maybe holding a stock that breaks support, because this stock broke support over here around 2260s or 23s. And from there went all the way down here to $6. So you don't want to be hanging on to that. It's okay to let it go a loser and maybe get back in when you think the bottom has come in. AMC, let's take a look. AMC continuing to get that nice little drive up there today towards the 1806, 1810s. The question is, can we get this back to 20? If this gets back to 20, this could really take off, at least from my eyes on the chart, because you're getting above this 19, you get above this resistance, and then you get back into this area. This is what I'm trying to pay attention to. If we can get back into this area, this is when we can go ahead and try to test to these highs where we broke out last time. And where did we break out? A lot of that was when we pushed up through the 20, then pulled back right to that 20, then broke out. That's why I like the 20 on AMC so much. Has it been strong? Yeah, it's been strong when it comes on up. The big thing is, do we take out the 20? All right, Intel, I see there. INTC here. Let's take a look. It's trying to come back here. We talked about this, how even a stock that comes down on earnings could refill that gap. We saw Walmart fill that gap. I would be looking for a gap fill. There's just too many times where these gaps are actually getting filled right back up. So maybe playing that off of today's low, you trying to use this low here, 35.24. What did we get today? 35.26. You don't think someone was looking at that 35.24 when it went down there? Well, if you don't know that one, you probably don't know longer time trading there. And I could tell someone was trying to attack that low there. Probably grabbed it somewhere in the 35.50s. Now it's back there to 36.40s. We'll see if it can make its way back to 39. All right, let's keep going here. Nice coat. Hey, what can I say, Rob T? Clean up well. That's the way it's got to be. All right, IMMR. Nice little push there to 615 here. I take a look at the 15-minute. It's holding up here. Software application name holding well. Mullen down there at 92 cents. Eventually, this is going to want to probably pop to that dollar. I'd watch this on the hourly. Make this clean for myself. So this is an hourly trend down, pops out, and then it starts going into another trend here. One thing that I would look for is as long as we can continue kind of this trend here, we're not looking too bad. Don't want it to crack down towards the 89. Want it to get back up there through the 95 and really take that next leg up. If we can take that leg up through 95, I think we get through that one. And then it's just a matter of where do we run into resistance? Is it 104 or is it 112? We'll see what happens there. All right, let's keep going. We got about 2 or 3 minutes left here. I want to take a look at the overall market, see if any of the sectors are changing here. Technology still leading us. So let's take a look here at how it's been trading in the last kind of 15 minutes, just starting to go sideways there. We got to keep watch on the SPY to see if we're going to see a turnaround. Couple of 15-minute candles there now, so I do see some topping out action. The question is, when we retrace, how far down are we going to come down here? All right, what other stocks are making moves here? We talked about solar stocks. Let's go back to my BKNG. I wanted to kind of keep an eye on it. It is topping out around that 1670. It's tough not to take the cover on that one. I already took some cover on it, so I'm not too mad if I don't get that next reward. But I'm going to look to keep working it. I also have Penn here. So I was looking for this to close up above 37. I actually added near this 36 down point. Why? Well, hourly pullbacks. You guys know how I love hourly pullback levels. And look how this 35, 36 held up after this pushed up through 37 and holds the hourly pullback and then right back to resistance. All right, let's see what other stocks are being mentioned in the chat. I saw a lot of stocks flying a little bit earlier, so let me catch up 1 or 2 of those. Coin is ripping. Yeah, I know it's a hard one to kind of think that it's going to keep pushing, but it has been doing well there. I know that Saga, let's see what it's doing today. It's trying to hold over here around the $18, $18.20. If it can get that next boost on up, that's through the 1840s. Who knows what can happen? But be careful with this one. Highly volatile, and I wouldn't want to be caught in a stock that's going up there about, let's say, 70, 80 cents, and then really quickly coming back down about more than $1. So just be careful on that. All right, guys, that's going to do it for me on Stock Market Movers, where we cover all the headlines, cover all the earnings reports, take a look at some expert opinion. We had a great expert on earlier today that talked about insider buys and buyback programs and how you guys can be filtering to go ahead and find some plays based off of insider buys. If you didn't catch that, rewind that, and you'll go ahead and catch Ben Silverman, Director in Research of VerityData. So check that on out. Let's go ahead and we're going to wrap on up. We talked today about Moderna's big move, PayPal's big move, also CVS getting some lift. Keep this on watch, guys. Technology, consumer cyclical, and healthcare still leading us. We'll see if it's leading us by the end of the day. And remember, what was not hot today was energy, basic materials, and utility. A lot of that coming from the OPEC output boost, giving us a little bit of lift in the morning. But then the turnaround coming with the crude inventories as we saw stockpiles actually build. And this was a surprise in oil today. I'll see you guys a little bit later on At the Close. If you guys don't know what At the Close is, it's our show with Joel Elconin where we take a look at the market close and what stocks moved in the day. And of course, touch how it's looking going into the close. I have a feeling Joel is going to be pretty bullish today. But you guys come check that out. That's going to be at 3:30. That's going to do it for us right now. We'll take a little bit of a break. No roadmap coming on up. So I know that I told you guys that yesterday. My apologies there. They're trying to work out some things right now, the roadmap. So we're going to take a little bit of a break from that NFT content and work some crypto content right back to you guys like always. Let me know what you guys like about this show. Or if you guys want me to kind of keep it up to the same speed, do you guys want to see how I take some trades? You want to see some more expert interviews? If you have an expert you guys want on the show, hit the comments after the show. I'll make sure to reach on out and get them on. We'll see you next time right here on Stock Market Movers with Money Mitch.